Have you seen this? It's literal Uncle Magic.
Welcome to Have You Seen This?
The world's only podcast about obscure, overlooked, and misbegotten media.
All discussions will be spoiler heavy.
You have been warned.
This show would not be possible without the support of our patrons. If you would like to support our show, join us at patreon.com/haveyouseenthis. Patrons get the show a week early, and $5 supporters also get access to our Discord. Or you can tip us at our Ko-fi. Visit the link in the show notes. Hello, folks. Tim is away somewhere. He has asked me not to reveal that he's in an underground bunker somewhere in the San Diego area, so don't tell anyone. But in the meantime, I have a special guest to help me talk about a very interesting film. He is a musician, podcaster, and peerless poster. That's a lot of P's. It's your friend and mine, Patrick Cosmos. Patrick, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Thank you for coming on. And the gift that you have brought us tonight is a very fun little movie that is, as we were talking about before we actually started recording, something which is very removed from the usual kind of so bad it's good, ironic distance sort of shit that we have talked about, but also sometimes we like to get, a little bit sincere, but still funny. So, can you tell the nice folks what we are talking about today?
Yeah, we're talking about Blood Diner, which is from 1987, and it's kind of hard to articulate like a jumping off point for this movie. It's obviously an 80s horror movie called Blood Diner, so there's going to be a diner, there's going to be people getting chopped up and such. But it kind of goes sideways in a lot of different ways over the course of the flick that are going to be fun to talk about. The main thing, though, is it's a comedy horror movie that is funny, but also plays it straight, but just over the top, like in a Leave It to Beaver sort of a way. Like it has a 50s vibe. The thing that I wrote down is it reminded me of at least the first half of it reminded me of Night of the Creeps if it cost $5 to make.
Yeah, this was a quick and cheapy. It was shot in about 3 weeks, I think, on a budget of somewhere around $300,000. This one comes to us from a director called Jackie Kong. I was not aware of her before this, but once I started researching the movie, I got pretty interested because in the 80s, you didn't see a lot of female directors around, period, let alone female directors doing this kind of horror schlock. And when I say horror schlock, I mean that of course, in the positive.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, after all, Have You Seen This? But she had gotten hold of a script which was originally intended to be a sequel to Herschel Gordon Lewis's Blood Feast, which is another kind of fun movie in this same vein. But it was a little more serious, if you can make a serious sequel to a Herschel Gordon Lewis picture. She took it and basically turned it into a comedy. So there's a comedic tone all the way through this movie. And Patrick, you mentioned that this movie was a little bit hard to pigeonhole, but I think a good way to orient yourself a little bit is a movie that I saw someone mention on Blue Sky the other day in the context of movies that have been on Mystery Science Theater 3000, which of course is our eternal touchstone on this show, such that we have a swear jar where we put $10 every time we quote directly from the show. But someone mentioned, I think they were talking about Time Chasers, made by a Vermont-based auteur, which is actually not a bad film by Mystery Science Theater standards. And someone else brought up the movie Hobgoblins. Have you seen that one?
I have, but it was a long time ago.
Right. But it did make it onto Mystery Science Theater, and it had such an effect on Mike and the Bots that the director actually became a little bit of a running joke. This is a guy called Rick Sloan. He also did a movie called Blood Theater, which I think it's floating around free on Tubi, much like Blood Diner. And I feel as though Rick Sloan attempts what this movie manages to mostly pull off. Like, Rick Sloan also makes horror comedy, and you can see in Hobgoblins, like, yes, it's a Gremlins ripoff that is trying for a similar sort of comic tone. But the problem is that, and, no offense to Rick Sloan, but, like, the jokes just kind of aren't that funny. Like, the humor in Hobgoblins is like, oh, here's Daphne. She's a total slut. Oh, here's Amy. She's a virgin and she's a real prude. Blood Diner has a little more on the ball.
I was just trying to think of pigeonholing Joe Dante's sense of humor into something that's not funny, like Porky's or something. Like Joe Dante making Porky's.
Right.
I want to see Joe Dante making Porky's real bad. God.
Yeah. Oh shit, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've said this before about Bob Clark, who made Porky's. It's amazing to me that that's the same guy who did a little under a decade earlier the very good slasher film Black Christmas.
I didn't know that. That's great.
Yeah, like, that's just crazy to me, because Black Christmas is really good, and Porky's, while successful, is famously kind of reviled for its juvenalian misogyny. And
hasn't aged the best.
No, not really. And something like this, on the other hand, I'm sure you could do like a sort of a humorless feminist reading of this movie because of its violence, specifically against women, its use of nudity, blah, blah, blah. But you can't get mad at a movie like this if, you kind of are looking at it from the right perspective.
There was one part of the movie that really rubbed me the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it was the flashback when the uncle is talking about how proud he is of like how evil he was when he was still alive.
Oh, right.
And it's just like a montage. No, they didn't do this out of any particular cruelty. They did it because it was the cheap way to do it. But it's literally just him like shoving women around and hitting them.
Right.
And somehow, if it had been like a bunch of stabbing and dismembering and stuff, it would not feel as gross as it did. That he was just like hitting these women.
No, that's
I don't
a really
know how to
good
explain
point.
it. It felt fucking weird to watch.
That's a really good point, and it's also very funny to think about because, like, domestic violence is uniformly horrible to see on screen, but then that's like saying, like, oh, if he had like straight up killed these women, it would have been fun.
Right, right.
It doesn't seem to make any sense, but I know exactly what you mean because...
I mean, intuitively it doesn't make sense, but you think about it for 2 seconds and it's like, oh, right, because the second a bunch of gore starts flying around, you understand that it's fake.
Right.
Whereas in the absence of that, it's just like, whoa, he's just like straight hitting women, huh? Like, that's something.
Yeah, and like, I don't think anybody has made or attempted to make like humorous treatment of domestic violence, which is probably good. And if I'm wrong, I don't actually want to know. Keep that shit to yourself. But
yeah, can't think of anything off the top of my head, and that's for the better. So.
Yeah, that's okay. Unless there's somebody out there who's laughing like Robert De Niro and Cape Fear at What's Love Got to Do with It, which, hey, there's a movie for everyone. But to get back to our topic, why don't you tell the folks what this movie is about? Because, man, it is chock-a-block with stuff.
Yeah, I guess like the quick, gosh, it's kind of like a slideshow to do just like a quick spoilery like plot summary. Because right at the beginning, there's these two kids. They're playing around. It's this little 50s pastiche. They got this mean mom. She goes out to go shopping and she leaves the kids at home, tells them not to open the door.
She needs tampons.
Oh, she needs tampons. That's right. Yeah.
Whom amongst us?
Very blunt at the start of that movie. They're definitely wise to just push out the tacky tone like from the jump.
I totally agree. It's very smart because like as soon as you see this setup, you're like, oh, I know what kind of movie this is going to be.
Yes. So the kids are home alone. They break from the radio to say that this killer who just killed all these girls has broken free or gotten loose or whatever. It's jumping back and forth to these extremely original Halloween shots of somebody approaching the house. The door gets busted down, and they're immediately excited to see this bloody guy with a big knife because it's their uncle. And their uncle says a bunch of sort of cryptic stuff to them and gives them these ancient medallions, steps outside, confronts the cops who've come to catch him, and gets shot up by the police. That is the first moment that you notice how cheap this movie is, because you see the kids watching through the blinds and you hear the gunshots, and it just like, it looks like a flashlight's just getting turned on and off. Like
Yeah.
this movie goes way out of its way to either not show violence on screen or show it in a really gratuitous way, which is like a smart use of your resources. And
Yes.
so they flash forward. The two brothers, now they're grown up. One of them is the more straight-laced one. He's not really the straight man exactly because he's still funny, but he's like the dark-haired, tall, handsome guy. He and his little madcap, I assume younger brother. He acts like his younger brother. It's not explicitly made clear in the movie ever.
Yeah,
They're robbing-
he appears to be some kind of cooking savant, but we'll get to that.
Yes. They're robbing a grave. It turns out they're digging up their old uncle. They get his brain out. They put his brain in a jar. Brain's got a funny voice. It's his voice. That dude is really funny. Everybody is funny in this movie. They might
Yes.
be 20% turned up too much from time to time, but it fits the movie very well. The uncle explains there's this Lumerian goddess that they're resurrecting, and they've got to perform this ritual. They need to sacrifice a virgin, which almost goes without saying.
Mhm.
They need to prepare this big feast, which is made from all the different specific body parts. Oh, and also the goddess's body is made out of all these different body parts. And he explicitly says that they all have to be from immoral women. So they've pretty much like lampshaded everything that they want to do within like 5 minutes of this movie, which is smart.
Yes.
And so from there, the brothers, they run this diner and they start cooking up the body parts. They're selling it all as vegetarian food. The restaurant blows up and gets really popular. The handsome guy finds this one lady who he's basically grooming to be like the virgin sacrifice. And it kind of, everything from there is, the plot with those two dudes is in service of that the entire time. So there'll be some slasher stuff. There'll be some stuff talking to the brain guy. Stuff like that. The
Mhm.
parallel sort of B story is these cops trying to solve these murders. The cop part is incredible. The police chief is like ridiculously loquacious the entire time. It never stops. It's like all big multi-syllable words. He is just talking a mile a minute. It's really funny. His immediate subordinate is like the most dime store Saturday Night Fever like scumbag in the whole world.
Total Guido.
Also, he has an insane voice that sounds like it's dubbed for the first like 30 minutes before you eventually get used to it. It's crazy
Yeah.
sounding. It's like so high, and you're like, that's gotta be like, I'm watching his lips move. I'm like, there's no way. And
Yeah, there's some
He gets
there's some very funky ADR in this film,
yeah,
which is forgivable because, like you said, from the very opening scene, you know that this is some cheap shit. So you're just like,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. And it's honestly hard to tell how much of that stuff is actually ADR because it's rare that you look and their like lips are off with the audio.
Right.
It feels very strange. Like the production on this movie is very strange. Also, it's worth noting that I did not watch the Tubi version. I had this on DVD.
Hell
It's
yeah.
it's part of a 6 movie pack split over 2 DVDs. So as you can imagine, the film quality was absolutely impeccable. I installed
Mark
Tubi.
of quality.
Yeah, I installed Tubi on my Xbox because I wanted to see which was going to look better, but we wound up just sticking with the DVD. However, this is crazy. I brought the case with me because I wanted to talk about this. So like I said, 6 movie pack, 2 DVDs. One of them is 3 extremely low budget 90s looking, maybe early 2000s. No, yep. Yes, whatever. Called Sundown, Fido, and Boy Eats Girl. These are all just extremely straight to DVD movies. David Carradine's in one of them, which is pretty sick.
Of course he is.
Whatever. However, now remember, this is marketed as Horror Collection, 6 movie pack. The first disc, the Blood Diner one, has the following 3 movies: Blood Diner, Parents with Randy Quaid, which is a classic, and the third movie, if you had literally a list of every movie in the entire world and I told you what year it was from, you'd never guess the third movie. It is Earth Girls Are Easy.
You're right. I never, ever, ever would have guessed that. Now,
I own this thing, and it surprises me every time I see it.
and that is really interesting because, I was waiting for you to read like what was on the set, and I was preparing myself to make a joke about how these kind of movie grab bag DVDs are never curated. It's like, what could we get our hands on and stick on a disc? So
Yeah.
you'll get like, 50 movies, and they're all like Rotor and 49 other movies that are worse than Rotor.
Yes.
But in this
They
case,
put up a loss leader up front is what they do.
Yeah.
This would be one movie you've heard of.
yeah, 100%. In this case, not only are the movies chosen on that disc like strangely of a kind, like they're all like kind of not bad. Like, and like honestly,
these top three movies are good. Parents is good. Blood Diner
Yes.
is good. Earth Girls Are Easy is good.
that's so funny because like a listener recently wrote to me and said like, "Hey, have you seen Parents with Randy Quaid? You should check it out." And I was like, "I will, sir. You know who you are." And I was like, Bob Balaban, who knew? This movie is pretty good.
Yeah.
And of course, Earth Girls Are Easy, which is a movie that Tim and I love so much, we have covered on the show. It is like one of our absolute favorites. And, a movie that we kind of wish had gotten a little more heat when it came out because it's so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, like who put out that disc, by the way?
Lionsgate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this would have been right in that like aughts lull when you could get all this stuff in a big bin at a Walmart. And
Yes.
Lionsgate was big in horror then. You would have
Right.
had like Freddy vs. Jason around then and stuff.
Right.
So I think that there would have been a drive for this type of sort of a shovelware.
Right. And I think I believe Lionsgate may have low-key fallen off since then, but that's a strong collection right there. And
Yeah.
today we are
It's-
going to sell you on Blood Diner because it's pretty fun.
Yeah, this movie is a blast. I watched it with my wife. She had never seen it before. I first saw this movie probably when I was 16. There was a sort of a neighborhood area, just classic old school video store, had a
Mhm.
crazy selection of horror stuff. And I would just rent 3 movies from there just routinely and just watch them and bring them back and get other stuff or whatever. And this was in the hall, and this movie always stuck with me.
Hmm.
So I was stoked when I found this DVD collection because pre-internet, this was a movie that I remembered having seen at the video store that it was just gone.
Right.
So
And that's this movie is exactly the kind of thing that you want to find in your neighborhood independently owned video store. Like that's half the fun of having a video store like that.
Yeah,
Or
you
it
gotta
was
look
back
cool.
in the day.
you got all the cool covers that scare you a whole bunch when you're little.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, like the Evil Dead cover or like Dead Alive,
Ghoulies,
stuff like that.
Ghoulies really stuck with me.
Yeah. Man, I miss that era of illustration, particularly artists working with the airbrush. Like, man, something truly has been lost. But
Yep.
anyway, Blood Diner. So this is a movie about a couple of guys just really earnestly wanting to please their dead uncle Anwar.
They really like him.
Yeah.
It's not like they feel like put upon at any point in time. He's bossing them around, but it's very collegial. He's definitely not a like parental figure in any type of like strict taskmaster sort of a way.
Right.
They're just going along. They like him.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and this is the kind of uncle that if your parents were normal, they'd be like, we don't want you spending time Uncle Anwars
Yeah.
anymore. But
The cool uncle who's like 20% too lit. Like
Right.
we can't. He's great. We'll see him at Christmas. It's gonna be awesome. But he's not coming around.
yeah, and you love him, and then, fast forward like 25 years later, and you're like, oh shit, like, I could have gotten in real trouble or even died.
Yeah,
But
yeah, he had stuff going on. Yep.
yeah, but at the time it was fucking cool, right? And
Mhm.
from what we saw at the beginning, like, I don't think these kids these kids' mom are gonna care very much about them hanging out with their uncle, which probably has a lot
No.
to do with why they're so excited to help him with this elaborate sacrifice and blood buffet.
I think that these children are canonically boomers. They would be like at the young end of boomer age wise, but
Agree.
they have extreme Gen X latchkey kid drink from the hose vibes.
Yeah, they definitely have rat lungworm that got to the brain. But and yeah, like very boomer coded because like you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of kind of like weird rockabilly doo-wop 50s greaser culture kind of mixed in.
Now might actually be an interesting time to point out something really strange that I noticed in the credits of this movie and then went and did the research. The music is credited to Don Preston. Don Preston played synthesizer for the Mothers of Invention.
Oh, okay.
And Frank Zappa like loved doing 50s doo-wop stuff.
That's true. He had like whole albums of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he made up a fake doo-wop band name that wound up being a real doo-wop band name that sued him over it. So the settlement was that he just produced one of their records.
Huh.
Like, he's crazy about this stuff. And I don't think there's like a direct line between those two things, but it did make me feel just nutso when I saw that Don Preston did this music. So sure enough, he also played synthesizer for the score of Apocalypse Now.
Really?
I learned a lot. Yeah, IMDb taught me a lot via Blood Diner, so I appreciate that.
Oh, I'm happy to hear it because
Yeah.
I always feel like the nerd when I do a bunch of research on a movie that no one cares about, and then I very excitedly like share the facts with Tim and our audience, and Tim is just kind of like, okay. So I appreciate your energy so much. The movie does have like a really LA feel, like
Yes.
simply because of its locations for one thing. Like who could forget like the nondescript building at the corner of like Hollywood Boulevard and Wilcox that had a little bit
Right.
of neon on it that appears in this film. They got great locations like that. But no, you do see a little bit of Hollywood, and I'm talking Hollywood proper. Like, people refer to Hollywood, of course, as like a as a way to represent like the movie industry, but we're talking about the place, like the place where Ed Wood died of alcoholism, like that Hollywood. And because of the necessity of budget filmmaking, they're using a lot of like real locations, which really adds to the aesthetic of the film, because it's like when they go to a greasy spoon diner, that is a greasy ass spoon that they have found.
Yeah, all those, it is really nice because there's their diner and then there's like the scuzzier one across the street.
Yeah, the even
run by-
filthier location.
And it looks perfect.
Yes.
Like that second one looks absolutely perfect. Like it's down to like the bars on the windows and stuff. Like it has like such a specific look to it. It's great. Yeah.
yeah, like
so
the
it's-
grease traps haven't been cleaned since like 1962.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny that yes, this movie has this like LA vibe because they're always dropping mentions to the fact that there's like nothing cool going on in town and there's no good place to get food. And like it's weird how often that comes up.
Yeah. Like this is like me and Tim like in LA at like 10:30 p.m. and being like, where the fuck are we supposed to eat? Because now LA is not cool. Like post COVID and Gavin Newsom and everything, it like kind of sucks now. This is a little more exciting. And just as an aside, you're so right about like those locations, because a thing that I love about this kind of low budget filmmaking is when you are looking at the set, or set the room that they shot in, and you see like the area around the doorknob and door frame is all greasy from like 30 years of people like coming in and out of that door. It's like, oh man, that's great. Like nobody thought to like wipe that down before they shot, but for this movie it works. It's like, no, these are some oily places that the characters go to.
Yeah, for being as busted as it is, just budget wise, this movie definitely like grabs onto an aesthetic and sticks with it in a way that's like endearing and never takes you out of it.
That's exactly right. It feels very authentic in that way. Where were we in the plot? Because
the cops.
Yes. Oh God. You did talk a little bit about the police chief who, for whatever reason, has the same kind of accent as Uncle Anwar. I don't know if this is maybe
that was. I definitely was like spending some time wondering if they were played by the same guy.
Yeah, that occurred to me too. And I was like, I don't know, is this like a nod to some kind of like Egyptian diaspora in Los Angeles? Like I knew about like all the Armenians in Glendale, but interesting. But for whatever reason, that's how he talks. And then we have, the one Guido cop. And then we have Guido cop's partner, played by Lynette LaFrance. This is Sheba Jackson. Absolutely gorgeous.
She reminds me of like a young Janet Jackson, maybe.
Yes.
She's really pretty.
Like Control era Janet Jackson.
Yeah.
Like really beautiful. Terrible actress.
She has. I noticed that she like talked weird. It felt
this is a case in which like the actor is genuinely like muffing a lot of their lines. Mm-hmm. But everyone in the production is like, you know what? We got like 10 more shots tonight. It's fine.
when you watch like an Italian movie and they just cast people who speak different languages and just dubbed it all in post?
Yes.
The audio felt like that in this movie. And she had like the most put on American accent that she would slip in and out of. As far as I can tell, that's what was going on. Yeah,
it's very strange. She sounds different from scene to scene.
Yeah. Well, it was funny. Like I noticed that her speech was a little strange, but since everybody's is in this movie, it didn't.
Nobody's normal in this movie.
And then but then at some point towards the end, my wife was like, she has the worst American accent I've ever heard before. And once she said it, I was like, oh my God damn. Like, and at that point, her voice just started yo-yoing all over the place. Like, just completely just up and down, kind of British, trying to be American. Sometimes it sounded fine. Incredibly weird. It's
so weird. And, like, I actually wrote down, like, one of the lines that she whiffed because it made me laugh so hard. Like, when her partner is calling her and trying to get her to, like, go to the vegetarian cafe or something. And she says something like, Miller said he would barbecue my butt if I so as mention pharaohs and blood cults. And when you hear me say that, you're like, Jen, you forgot to say a word. And I'm like, yes, so did she. Mm-hmm. Like, and a good amount of her lines are like that. Like words are forgotten, or like one word is just like hilariously mispronounced. And
it's like in Clerks when Jay is talking about what's his face, the German guy.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, and the girl's like, can he speak English? And Jay says something like, yeah, he can speak English, but he cannot speak it good like we can. Like he says it in the most like busted syntax possible, and that's how she talks all the time in this movie.
Yeah, and how cheaply was Clerks made? It's like the same principle. It's like, can we please just get the shot in the can? Like, it's fine. And I can't say if the ADR in this movie was due to, production audio mishaps, or maybe like, oh, well, looking at the footage and listening back, like this person just has totally the wrong voice for this character or whatever. But it's really obvious. And I think it's doing a lot of work to kind of cover up some flaws in the film. Like, you definitely see the Scotch tape, and
Yeah.
it's fine. It's a Scotch tape kind of movie.
Yeah, again, it picks an aesthetic and it sticks to it. It's just off a little bit, but it serves the movie well that it's off a little bit because it keeps you kind of on your toes.
Yeah, and like I've been trying to like figure out like why, like what are the things that make this movie work better than something like Hobgoblins or Blood Theater? Because it's not like this is some kind of like clever comedic masterpiece. Like the humor is pretty basic.
I know what it is about this movie that makes it more compelling than those movies. It's paced like a comedy. It's paced like a Zucker, Abrams and Zucker movie, where there's always
Right.
set pieces and there's a goal that you're getting to, but stuff just kind of happens. But it all respects your time. It just happens and goes away. So even though it's chaotic and a bunch of different stuff is going on or whatever, it's like going in a direction, and it's 88 minutes long. So it never it feels like it's whisking you the entire time. Like it never feels like it's getting stuck in some weird rut or just doing something gratuitous. First off, they couldn't afford to do anything gratuitous, otherwise they would. But like it's just like it's paced well, which sounds crazy to say because it's like objectively not paced well, but it's paced well for the movie, like for the story they're telling. It's perfect.
For this like brand of outrageous comedy, which involves like a lot of titties and blood.
Yeah, more sparing than you think, but yes, they
Yeah.
really kind of front load it by having there be one scene with probably 8 women doing nude aerobics, including their like coach who isn't even on the camera.
Maybe it's a situation like when Paul Schrader was making the Canyons and trying to get Lindsay Lohan to like take off her clothes on camera, and she wouldn't do it. He actually took off his clothes too. It was like, look, see, I did it. And she screamed and ran off the set.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. But hey, whatever you need to get like a shot of them titties bouncing. And the other really funny part about this scene is that the way it climaxes is with the main character like bursting in with a Reagan mask and an automatic weapon and just mowing down these like topless cheerleaders. It's that kind of a movie.
That happens immediately after it's explained that they got to get these body parts and stuff. It happens so fast. It's not like, here's this plan, get ready to execute this plan, then we're executing this plan. It's like, here's this plan, smash cut the plan. We're doing the plan.
Yeah, they don't waste any time, in other words, which is good. I mean, you want to get to the titties and blood. Like, we know why we rented this VHS tape.
Yeah. Which, again, towards the beginning, they're really, and even through the majority of the movie, they're really teasing you with it. There is a great kill scene right at the beginning when they're robbing the grave, and this cop finds them, and one of them hits the cop in the back of the head with a shovel, and it plays this really funny, triumphant synthesizer music when he does it. But his eyeballs just fly out of his head for like absolutely no reason. It's really funny.
Hell yeah, dude.
There's just a lot of great stuff happening in this movie.
Yeah, and going back to what you said about the movie being like having like good comedy pacing, there's also a sense of comedy that you don't normally get in this kind of schlock movies, where you'll have a setup and a payoff. Like, and that sounds like, like, come on, Jen, that's like so basic. But honestly, like a lot of filmmakers don't know that that's how it works. And they don't know how to like layer things in like a funny way. It doesn't occur to a lot of filmmakers to balance the more serious action in the foreground with something extremely funny in the background. And there are examples of that in this movie.
Yeah, it's dense, and at times it seems really self-aware, and at times there's stuff that's funny in the movie where you straight can't tell if they meant for that to be funny or not. And like it mingles together really well. Like we mentioned this before, but like the modern wave of So Bad It's Good movie, which I always associate with Snakes on a Plane, I feel like it really poisoned the well.
It did,
Is that
yeah.
they're cynical and they understand jokes and wry little references, but they're just like stuff and references and little punchlines and one-liners. This movie has details that are just funny. Like they keep mentioning they've got to do this blood feast, this ceremony. And the dude keeps mentioning that there hasn't been one of them since 50 million BC. And it's funnier every single time he says it. And I have no idea if they just like picked a year that was old or if that's just like obviously a funny year to pick. And it happens enough times that it just keeps getting funnier every time he says it.
Yeah, it's like in when Vincent Price in Thriller says something about like the funk of 40,000 years. And, you know, if you know anything about the Anthropocene or the evolution of man, you're like, hey, wait a minute. And this is like the same thing where it's like that timeline doesn't square, but you know what? Who cares? It's funny.
No, it's great. Yeah, it's better that way.
Like the amulets are like either 5 million years old or maybe 10 million years old. Like it straight up doesn't matter. Like you're not coming to this movie for lore.
This reminds me, this isn't a note that I wrote down, but it stuck in my craw at the time. The amulets. Each of the brothers has the amulet. The one brother gives his amulet to the virgin that they're going to sacrifice. The other amulet just gets found on a dismembered body that like a woman digging through the garbage can finds. So that was the younger, goofier brother, Georgie's amulet.
Yes.
And like, I don't know why it was there or what it was doing. That's probably the one scene in the movie that appears to make like zero canonical sense in the movie.
Right. And who knows, like it could have been something that was set up and then the scene was cut because they wanted to get it under 90 minutes.
Right. They needed like 30 seconds for one of the police to be like, hey, we found... Oh, no, that is it. They find it. It gets brought in somehow or whatever, and they find it because that's how they go and talk to the archaeologist, the very weird,
Right.
self-serious archaeologist who all of her subordinates are like riveted to somehow. Very strange scene.
Yeah, like she's not really that interested in like finds like human remains. She's just really, really into talking about these weird cults and their orgiastic celebrations. So
Yeah.
I assume that's why she's so popular with her, you know, teaching assistants.
Yeah, they get
or whatever.
fired up because she's talking about all the orgy stuff. I forgot about that. They just want to party.
Yes.
That does feel like a 5-minute. It obviously is what gets the cops on the right direction to solve this mystery that they're investigating. But in retrospect, that really sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, and that is a good example of how kind of overstuffed this movie is and why it plays reasonably well as like incredibly broad comedy is because there's so much in it, including the kitchen sink. It's like, it's not just about two brothers with a crazy uncle or two brothers with a crazy uncle who are part of a Sumerian death cult or whatever, or two brothers, crazy uncle, ancient death cult, cannibalism in a vegetarian cafe.
Yeah.
Like a cafe, which is, and the joke being like, this vegetarian cafe is insanely popular, specifically because they're sneaking meat into the food. And it isn't just meat, it's long pig, it's human meat.
Yes.
And, you know, whereas like, and we've talked about this on the show before, like when we've talked about Stephen King, is that sometimes he tends to run a little bit amok with his ideas, where it's like, okay, it's about like a savant with magical powers and they're aliens and beasts. And it's like, okay, like pick a thing and like, you know, run with it for at least a while. But this is so silly that it's like, yeah, you know, fuck it, just throw that in too. Like have a weird like rockabilly band with dancing Hitlers in the movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mentioned Zucker, Abrams, and Zucker before, and I think it's because this movie sort of reminds me of Top Secret.
Yes.
Where it has a plot, like Airplane has a plot, but it's not it doesn't work the same. And then you've got like Kentucky Fried Movie and stuff, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Naked Gun. Top Secret has this exact type of like, there's a narrow focus, there's a through line, and then there's just like, you just kind of prop stuff up against it as you go along and just cram it together. It's great.
Yeah, it's like the line that Top Secret is hung on is like, hey, we're going to parody like some of the shittier Elvis movies. And then they just stack the gags on top of that. And it works great because Top Secret is like one of the funniest fucking movies ever.
It has two of like the most formative, funny gags to me. One is the librarian guy taking down the magnifying glass and he just has a really big eye. And the other one is when they're trying to sneak through the woods, but the leaves are really loud. And Val Kilmer turns around and makes the shush gesture, and then they keep walking, but they just take out the Foley sound of the leaves. Just like, just incredible classic jokes.
Yeah, and see those are great gags. And while this movie isn't like operating on that elite level, there is an effort to have like gags that are set up and paid off, which is what makes it so fun.
That's probably worth pointing out. Maybe it's a little late to point this out. This movie is funny. It's not like super funny. It's a movie that you can tell is being funny, and it's like good natured about it, and it's fun. And you're gonna laugh a couple times, but it's not like most of these jokes are hitting like real jokes. Like it's definitely not that level of funny, but it's, I don't know, it's balanced perfectly against the rest of the stuff in the movie.
Yeah, I feel like with a movie like this, there are as many groans as laughs.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It's kind of like kind of dirty dad humor. Like some of them are the jokes that, your mom would get mad if your dad said in front of you, but you laughed anyway. Kind of like having a weird uncle who has maybe killed a few women in his time.
Sure.
And another thing which, when I came to it, made me like, I was like, oh, this is so like apropos for this kind of movie, is like the references to pro wrestling.
Yes.
Because
that is another one of the sort of C stories in this movie. It's just really great.
Yeah, because not only is George the kind of idiot man-child brother, like he's a really gifted cook, doesn't seem to have a lot going on like upstairs. He's also super into wrestling, and he's going to wrestle himself. And he wrestles a pretty typical heel, a wrestler called Jimmy Hitler.
Yeah, little Jimmy Hitler.
Right, which honestly is like on par with some of the more offensive shit that you would see in WWF from the 80s. So I'm just like, yeah.
Oh, this is extremely classic 80s, like local territory wrestler type stuff. You still had Nazi gimmicks decades later than you would expect them.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, yes,
that's
and especially
that's back when they were bad.
Yeah, like a territory wrestling, like before it kind of got cleaned up for national television. It's pretty wild. And this is kind of like a perfect example of it. And of course, because it's that kind of a movie, we have an extended wrestling sequence with a ring and an audience like baying for blood and everything. And they're all cheering at first for Jimmy Hitler, which is very funny.
He's the champion, and he's up against some jobber loser.
That's exactly right.
I'm going to cheer for little Jimmy Hitler. By the way, meant to mention this earlier. The guy who plays Georgie is so much like Ethan Embry. Once you notice it, you can't not notice it. It's great. He reminds me of Ethan Embry in like Vegas Vacation, where he's got like this real, like, dopey love for life. And it's infectious. He's really great in this. Like, it's annoying. It's too much. But like the times when he's just really going for it, he's really going for it. Yeah,
this actor is having a really good time. And I think that his most notable project is a film in the early 90s where he played Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah, I looked into this. I want to see this. It looks atrocious.
Yeah, it looks like it because it came out in like 1993. So it's like, oh man, they were capitalizing on the Dahmer story like as fast as they could.
Yeah.
Like they got that out as soon as possible. And I would be curious to see his performance in that.
I was going to say that it looks like a Lifetime movie, but that's not true. What it looks like is a movie from 30 Rock. It has like
Jackie
just-
Jomp.
Yeah, well, what I was thinking of what's the one about a dog took my face and gave me a better face to change the world.
I need to rewatch 30 Rock. That show's so great.
Yeah, there's all of the NBC shows, they all have like one moment where I just bounce off of them and I'm gone. And 30 Rock, it's when Jack's got the two girlfriends. There's the Fox News girlfriend and then the other one who's Julianne Moore playing.
Oh,
like,
right. Yeah,
Boston.
she's like from Boston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at some point during all that stuff, it just loses me. Which
I
is
think-
a bummer because I like all those people. It just like stops working.
It's funny because I think that's around the time when I like kind of and this happens to me a lot with TV shows. Like I forgot to keep watching the rest of the series.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, I never finished up 30 Rock, but I don't know. I can always go back and finish it. But after Righteous Gemstones ends. But anyway, so yeah, like the that actor who plays George is named Carl Crew. I think I found out about the other actor in
Rick
this
Burks,
who
I got
plays
these both open.
who plays Michael. I wasn't expecting like a tragic story, but
No.
like he died at like 28, like very soon after this movie came out.
An insane thing I noticed about this guy, probably significantly more insane than the Ethan Embry thing. He sounds exactly like Mordecai on Regular Show.
It is like a type of voice.
Yeah. It's the enunciation's the same. It's really strange. It's another one that once I noticed it, I was like, God damn, this is not going away.
Yeah, and also 80 yard, like I don't know if 100% of the time, but like damn near.
Yeah. No, there's definitely times when you can see him talking. Like there's scenes in the diner where you can tell he's really talking. But yes, every single character in this movie, it might just be that there's shots where the audio is gone. It might not be anyone's specific performance because it feels like there's specific moments where everything feels off. And then there's other moments where everything seems fine. So it's possible that there was just like a big technical error or maybe some of those spaces were hard to mic or something. But it definitely comes in and out.
That's a really good point because like the whole feel of this, like you could definitely see some kind of like catastrophic like Nagra thing happening and just being like, oh shit, we lost all the audio from today.
Yeah.
So, which, hey, you make do. Like you do what you can.
Yeah, I think they did great.
Yeah. But, geez. And I guess that this actor, like Richard Burks, was he was a musician. I think he appeared in another film for this director and also had some bit parts in music videos. But then he was in a car that a friend was driving. And the friend was impaired and lost control of the car, and he died, which that's a hell of a thing.
Yeah, 1989 too. So pretty soon after this.
Yeah, like, and that, like, 28 fucking years old. Like, don't drink and drive, folks. But yeah, that's like really sad because the guy does have like quite a bit of natural charisma.
Yeah, he's like surprisingly good looking and he's got like an intensity to him. He's definitely like he probably isn't getting too far from this kind of movie or whatever, but he probably could have kept doing it for a long time.
Oh yeah, I could have, like, an actor like this could have carved out like a really quite appreciable little niche in B movies and it would have been perfect. Like he is really good at playing the kind of guy who like hypnotizes women so he can later sacrifice them. It's a good performance.
He could have wound up playing Bruce Campbell's brother in something.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he would have been in that exact universe. He would have been slotted in perfect.
Yeah, like a TV show that I would have loved but only ran for one season before it got canceled. Like that kind of thing.
The Georgie guy died too. The guy who played Georgie, Carl Crew, he died as well, but he died recently.
Oh really? Oh,
Yeah.
shit. February 20th, 2025.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And he's got like he's got like a really extensive Wikipedia entry. 'Cause,
Yeah, he ran this like museum thing. Oh, North Hollywood nightclub, California Institute of Abnormal Arts.
See, that just sounds cool.
Yeah,
And
Yeah,
it also says here
nightclub and
that
sideshow museum.
that's cool. Like, it also says here that he was briefly an apprentice embalmer for a Marin County mortuary.
Yeah,
Damn, this guy sounds cool as fuck. Well, he
Yeah.
had a good run though, because like it looks like he was really active in local LA area, that scene.
yeah.
Oh shit, he was on the show Oddities.
Oh man, yeah.
I remember that show. That was kind of
Me
fun.
too.
I kind of wish that had run a little longer because it was actually pretty entertaining.
Well, rest in peace to the only two actors with Wikipedia pages in this movie.
Yeah, everyone else is like kind of it's like a one and done credit kind of situation.
Was kind of surprised the Uncle Anwar dude wasn't in other stuff. He looked familiar.
Yeah,
Or
and he
it
was
might have
very
just been,
funny.
He might have just had such like a singular presence. Like when you see him acting, like because he's mostly just a talking brain in a jar. But the couple scenes when you see him acting, he's really got an intense vibe to him. It's very good.
Yeah, he's great. And then you have actors like, for example, the child actor credited with playing George as a little boy, whose name is Sir Rodenheaver,
Yeah, I saw that. Exciting.
which doesn't seem like a name that a person would have, but there it is.
I'm just assuming this is a child who just got put in these movies because he's like related to someone and they just like gave him a funny name so he could have a normal life.
Yeah, that's actually fair. And like knowing what we know now about Hollywood in general, it seems like the right choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, he picked a great role too. So
Exactly. So, kind of an eclectic cast in this one. Maybe not a lot of known quantities, but they do fine.
it would be distracting if this movie had people you recognized in it.
Oh yeah,
This movie works way better when you're like, wow, look at this guy. I've never seen a guy like this before.
and it kind of ties in with what you were saying earlier about kind of like the aftermath of like the snakes on a plane and like Sharknado and stuff like that, where everything is done with such a broad wink and like this feeling of like, oh, we know this is shit. Like, isn't that funny that it's shit? And we're going to put like
Yeah.
name actors in this because that's funny,
Yeah.
right? And it's
Yeah,
like,
stunt casting somebody in it. Yeah.
yeah. And I think probably the nadir of that was movie 43, which I don't think anybody has seen except maybe like the Red Letter Media guys. But that was a movie which was like, it's like a Farrelly Brothers film, like a gross out comedy where the stunt was that they were getting actors like Hugh Jackman and Kate Winslet to appear in it and do sketches about like poop and deviant fucking and stuff like that. And it
Yeah.
did not go over.
I haven't seen all of it. I have seen parts of it. I was looking into it recently for God knows what reason. And I just remember just flashing back to it just felt unpleasant, even vaguely remembering it.
Yeah. And like I'm okay with like pretty transgressive humor, but like the humor has to be funny. And I feel like in the case of something like movie 43, it's just like it's not funny. It just doesn't work.
No.
Anyway, with Blood Diner, so we have our setup where, we have these two brothers who, at the behest of their uncle, who happens to be a brain in a jar with a couple of eyes, are preparing for an elaborate sacrifice to resurrect a Lemurian goddess named
Sheetar.
And so to that end, they are basically killing women, taking the parts, and using them to put together the body of Sheetar, who will eventually...
That part happens really fast.
It does. It's there's like they take their time with like the collection of the body parts, because that's the good stuff. That's the money shots. And then
This is a movie called Blood Diner. It's about a diner. It's not about this other stuff. A lot of this movie is in fact about a diner.
True. And that contributes to a lot of the stuff which contributes to the very specific tone of the movie, which is they're not afraid to be incredibly disgusting.
Yeah, a lot of gross out stuff.
Yeah, which that's kind of like on the fine line for me. Like I don't, and I'm not saying like filmmakers shouldn't do it. It's like, you know, do what you want, let your freak flag fly. For me, like, it's tough to watch people like spitting on other people or like, you know, food like dribbling out of people's mouths and stuff like that. But hey, it's you know, it was a choice made by the filmmakers, and it does contribute to the atmosphere. But there are quite a few like spit-based gags in this. Spit and vomit.
Yeah, some good amount of barfing, a lot of burping.
It kind of made me think about the old show that they used to run on Nickelodeon. You can't do that on television.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up too. Barf, yeah.
Yeah. Like between, you know, the green slime and like, you know, Barf the cook. Like, yeah.
Yeah. In this case, their Barf is a food critic.
Right.
Who is a big fat guy who in the 80s tradition of big fat guys is just like a burping slob who loves to eat.
Yeah.
But it's not explicit that he's a vegetarian, but he is talking about how he's like reviewed veggie burgers all over the place. And they have
yeah, because he holds forth at length about how like, oh man, like these other places, like, you know, the soup wasn't worth pissing in. And he also has beef with George, who takes a couple of opportunities to basically choke slam him.
Yeah, he hates wrestling. He's the guy he's the you still watch that, don't you know it's fake?
Yeah.
In the movie.
Yeah, because oh right, and we should mention this was still at a point in American culture when like right on the cusp of we as a people becoming smart to the business.
Yeah, so yeah, 87, you've got like this is pretty much the ascendant time of WWF having like all the wrestlers have jobs. Like this is the garbage man wrestler and this is the police officer wrestler and everything. Like this is like a very theatrical era for the WWF.
Yeah, Big Boss, the guy who repossessed stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, the Repo Man, yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like they hadn't quite reached the nadir of WWF, but they were like kind of sliding towards that. I feel like they were slightly past like the true high points.
Yeah, they're a year or two away from things being really dire for the industry for a few years.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't remember when the gobbledygooker showed up, but it was around that time.
Yeah.
Good times. To go back to the food critic, that was another thing which like kind of stood out for me, where it was like, okay, it's the 80s and there's a fat guy, so of course like everything is going to like all the jokes and everything are going to revolve around food. And it does somewhat beg the question, like, you know, how you get like a big fat slob who is really into vegetarian food.
Hey, they got to keep it moving.
Yeah.
You need a food critic guy who really likes the food. And you got to tell your gross out jokes. So you make a composite character that does both those things and you're good.
That's a good point. And, you know, if you love food, obviously you're fat because that's what food does. It makes you fat.
Yeah, that goes without saying.
I mean, it was the 80s, and there is aerobics in this movie as well. And were any of those chicks fat? Hell no.
No, that is a plot point early on that that they're eating at the vegetarian restaurant because all of the cheerleaders went vegetarian because the other cheerleading squad was getting skinnier than they were. There was an arms race.
Only in LA, am I right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty funny, but maybe less so like the fat people jokes. But hey, it's not like this movie is leaning hard on good taste. But the whole like vegetarian diner and like George being like a really good chef and everything, it's a really important component of this movie because they can't just sacrifice like a bunch of sluts and a virgin. They have to have a blood buffet.
In fairness, you could, but it would be counterproductive to what they're trying to do.
Right. And you know, you might end up resurrecting like you know, some like minor deity from Babylon rather than Lemuria. Yeah. So, you know, these are very precise.
Right, you don't want to goof that up.
Procedures.
They're goal oriented.
That's exactly right. You know, because George and Michael are very focused on their goal, they have to do the blood buffet, which ends up being like basically like a big stew pot at like a club in Hollywood.
Yeah, it's the Roughneck Punk Club that also has a like an all black doo-wop band that appears to have a white horn section on one night, and then like a kind of standard gaudy like 80s style rockabilly punk band with a horn section that are all dressed up like Nazis on another night. They've got like a very eclectic program going on there, and there's a lot of violence. That's one thing. This movie has a lot of, like, it should go without saying that this is a slasher movie. It's got a lot of violence, I know. This movie has like blithe, cartoonish violence that people are just like fine with all of the time.
And what that immediately makes me think of is the bit where George and Michael want to get into a club to look for loose women, and they have a little trouble with the guy at the door who doesn't want to let them in. So George grabs him and throws him out in the street, and a car, not just any car, like a lowrider with a La Cucaracha horn, like immediately runs over his head.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And everybody laughs.
And everybody waiting in line laughs.
And then the other bouncer, he's like, "Hey man, you okay?" And he's laughing. Like everybody's just having a great time.
And then he tells George and Michael, who have literally just killed a man, "Well, have a good time in there, guys."
Yeah.
And I have to say that part, like the guy getting his head run over, like I laughed really fucking hard at that. It's just
Oh, it was great. Yeah, no, it was one of those things where like the car bounces on the front wheels like probably 4 times in the run up to bouncing on the head. And you know it's going to happen, and you can see it coming from a mile away. And the anticipation is timed like perfectly, because you're like, there ain't no way it's going to hit him. And then it does, and it's great. It's just really great stuff.
Yeah, like just these incredibly violent throwaway gags.
Yeah. But also because this movie cost $5, it's rare that it's like, it's explicit in like a fun 80s horror movie way.
Mm-hmm.
But they can't afford to make it be like a really funny gore fest. So they have to kind of make it like just funnier.
Right.
And they do a good job of splitting that difference.
Yeah, and you do kind of accept it because like at this particular level of filmmaking in this genre, like, you know, the gore is going to be funny anyway. And it's okay that the heads are not like convincing, or like the limbs look kind of plasticky. Like it doesn't matter. It's just that kind of a movie.
Yeah, they got more important stuff to worry about.
That's exactly right. Like, for example, like, you know, booking a club for the rockabilly band with the Hitler backup dancers that also books like doo-wop groups. It made me think of Streets of Fire.
Yeah. Also, the rockabilly band also had some lady in the band who was like a different kind of vibe than the main guy in the band.
Yeah, there were like a couple of sort of like Egyptian temple maidens in like blue wigs, because why not?
Yeah. And they did like a penis gag on stage that was like kind of a Gwar thing, but it was like they just kind of did it. A lot going on. There's just like an eclectic club.
Yeah, and like that, I remember like noticing that like the penis bit, like the second time I watched the movie, and it's almost like muffed the way they do it, because it looks like this band, like at least the lead singer is a guy named Dino Lee, who I guess came out of Austin, and he had an act called like Dino Lee and the White Trash Review. And,
okay,
you know, they used to like tour around, and it's what it says on the tin. You can kind of guess like what kind of act this was. Like
this band is extremely of a type.
Yeah.
That if you follow like punk music at all, there's like just a strain of band like this. It doesn't, it comes off as tacky because it's in a tacky movie.
Mm-hmm.
They don't come off like an imaginary band that's like, you could see a band actually being like this. It's obviously played up for the sake of it being a movie, but it's not like completely implausible somehow.
Yeah, I feel like the Tubes were this kind of band before they like broke big.
I was picturing like a really turned up, like fake New York Dolls that you put in a horror movie.
Right, yeah.
That was going to be tacky like this.
Yeah, like just, and you know, the kind of band that would do like dildo gags on stage. And actually felt a little bad for the band because like this was clearly like a centerpiece of their act, but it's not like it's not really like shot that well. I think like one of the women in the band like grabs the fake dick and makes off with it before like it can be like brandished in any kind of way. And it was like, oh, so was that going to lead up to a bit, or was it just spontaneous, or like it's
Yeah, just a cutaway.
yeah, it's just like it kind of fits the ramshackle like feel of the movie.
If they didn't cut to the band so much, it honestly feels like they shot this in a club when a band was playing, and just literally shot these scenes while the band was playing, and it was just like happenstance that band was playing.
Yeah, and also like it's even funnier because of the way it's like so kludged together in the editing. Because in the climax of the film, like you have the the white trash Hitler rockabilly review playing or whatever, so you hear snatches of their song, but then I assume non-diegetically, suddenly you get these like swells of Wagner, like Tannhauser, or probably most people know it from the Warner Brothers What's Opera Doc cartoon. So okay, and then they'll like cut back to like Stud Pony or whatever the song is called, and or just like some like crazy thing going on in the audience, like there are two like punk guys who, oh, we forgot to mention the pills that make people want to eat.
Yeah, they hand them out at the party for the blood feast. That's basically they insinuate that these are recreational drugs. These are club drugs, and the club's just gonna be able to give them out. But they actually make everybody hungry. But they also paint everybody's face green. They don't turn the people green. They literally put face paint on them that makes them green. And it appears to turn them into zombies, but not really zombies. They're just hungry, but they want meat.
Right.
And it's a really specific drug these people are on.
Like hungry enough to just eat from a random pot of stew at the front of a stage.
Yeah, and then start eating each other.
Right. I mean, I mean, like I've been high. I've been that hungry, but
Sure.
yeah.
There is another thing going on with this club. At the climax of this scene, they're performing, the two brothers with the Virgin and Sheetar are on stage performing a sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere else on the stage that isn't totally made clear by virtue of how it's shot, there's a band playing. The band does not stop playing. The two owner guys are at the bar, and they're handing out these drugs to everybody. Then, when Sheetar wakes up, Sheetar starts firing off like electricity,
Yes.
like lightning bolts at people. She hits the two owner guys and knocks them off what appears to be a crow's nest that, one, they were not standing on, and two, does not appear in any of these other shots. So there's like, so somehow it's like when you went to like Showbiz Pizza as a kid, and there would be like the main band on the big stage, but then off to the side there'd be like the little dog man with the three dogs, and it would be like off on the little other stage. That's clearly the setup that was going on here. It's incredibly confusing at the end.
Yeah, this isn't exactly like De Palma shooting the prom scene from Carrie. Like
It's the one scene where like the practical filming breaks down.
yes.
Every other scene in the whole movie is like, okay, this is a room. It's a real room. I could see it. And then you get to that and it's like, no, this is a magical club. It's brick over there. There are booths up there over there. There's a stage. There's another part of the stage you can't see from the one stage. There is a crow's nest. There's a bar. It's just totally cockamamie. That's like the one part where it just completely loses it.
Yeah, and I have to say that I think you're absolutely correct. This is kind of where the filmmaking like really falls apart. I think maybe the director's reach slightly exceeded her grasp. Not hating, because it's a lot of elements to try to bring together. And
Yeah.
in like on this level of budget, I don't assume that you have a lot of time to like, we're going to go check out the space and we're going to have them like map it out. We're going to
Right.
draw it. We're going to like board this out and like blah, blah, blah. I'm sure a lot of this was like thrown together on the day of, and like, God love them for it. They were just they were, as we always say on the show, doing what they could with what they had.
And even in the absence of like the whatever practical concerns they had about the club,
Mhm.
it's also the fact they're trying to dovetail the two different primary stories and also do all this stuff with the club and like the patrons and the blood feast. So I guess 3 stories because you got the feast and the sacrifice and the cops.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a solution, because what they actually do is have everything take 3 times as long as it would actually take to do all these things. What they should have done is made it like the end of Jackie Brown and just told the ending from 3 different perspectives.
Oh, yeah.
That would have really been something if that's what this movie did.
Yeah. That's maybe a little cerebral for this film, but you make a good point.
Yeah, I think I'm picturing an incredible movie. That's all I know.
Yeah, like that would have been really, yeah, that would have worked really well. As it is, it just kind of builds up to this big mess, but you get the point. And when Sheetar starts like shooting lightning, and like the big like gash in her abdomen with teeth opens up, and she starts like biting people's heads off, it's like,
It's called the Videodrome hole.
yes, it's a very unusual orifice, but you will find it in the medical literature if you know where to look. And some of them have teeth. So remind me how it ends up, because obviously, like the cops, in particular Sheba Jackson, are rushing to the club to try to save the day, and George gets his head bitten off by Sheetar's torso. And I forget what happens to Michael, though. Like, does he get shot?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the cops are coming after them. The guy cop shoots Michael right. Let's see. I think that she shoots the knife out of his hand, and he shoots him in the head.
Mm-hmm.
He goes down, and it means that he can't do the sacrifice. Georgie starts yelling, "You killed my brother," hits the dude cop with like a meat hook, and he's dragging the cop towards him. And Georgie's head somehow in the kerfuffle here gets pushed into Sheetar's Videodrome hole. And so the end of the movie suggests that the sacrifice worked. So I think we're supposed to infer that Georgie's a virgin.
That's a really good point. Based on how he was acting with one of the women that he and Michael picked up at the club earlier, like I would accept that.
Oh yeah, no, I don't find it particularly implausible. I'm just saying I think that that's the subtext there.
Wow, there is subtext in this movie. Holy shit.
Yeah, we found it.
Damn.
We found
That's
it.
a good find.
There's some more subtext in this movie earlier on, and it's after they build Sheetar and they're making the blood feast. They just have Sheetar like propped up in the corner. She's just sitting there topless, painted gold.
Yes.
And it's just the woman who plays her standing still, and you can see her rocking around in like multiple scenes, because it's a real person who's being forced to fucking stand still. You can see her just like twitching and like rocking around a little bit.
I really sympathize, because I feel like those are the times when like you really need to hold like a limb steady. Like that's when your whole limb starts shaking.
Yeah. Well, standing up, it's easy to like, relatively speaking, if you're able-bodied, it's easy to just to walk and fidget and move around a little bit. It's hard to stand completely still.
Yes.
And they really sold her out by doing that. I got to tell you. Like, hey, just like, look, we just need you to be topless and just like be cool for a little bit. We're going to be doing this. Just like be cool. That sucks. That's a rough couple days of filming.
Especially when you're topless in the scene, because where are people going to be looking?
Right.
They're going to notice.
Well, if you're me, you're going to be looking at her head because you can see it swaying back and forth. But if you're a normal person, probably not.
There's also, that reminds me of like, there's also like a kind of funny bit like early on when George and Michael first like start like killing and dismembering women. Like they make sure to have an insert shot where one of them is like trying to saw a woman's leg off, but like he's doing it in such a way that he's just basically like jiggling her butt. It's just like, oh, here's a little something extra for the viewer.
Yeah, as one does.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you for that insert shot. And yeah, like it is implied that Sheetar has successfully risen, because she then gets picked up by some douchebag in a convertible.
He's awesome.
It's a fine performance.
Yeah, he has like a shithead grin about him that's just awesome.
It's very
That
apt
dude-
casting.
Yeah, it's really good.
And also,
Everyone is good in this movie.
yeah, and like on
Well, except for the lady who plays Sheba, she sucks. But you know, it's still great. She talks weird. She gives us something.
you know what? I
No
love
role
her
is wasted in
anyway.
this film.
Like,
Uh-huh.
you know, I all is forgiven, Lynette. Like, you did good. Like,
Yeah,
she's very fun.
being the put upon like woman in one of these movies who's getting constantly hit on by her coworker, that's like a vital role, and she performs admirably.
Yeah, and in fact, they do make some hay out of that, which is nice for this kind of movie in this era, where like they make it clear that her partner is a sleazebag, and they take the time to set it up that, you know, he's being gross and like kind of licking his lips at her, and then somebody mentions like the detached tongues from the women who have
Yeah.
been killed, and then he's just like
Yeah, it's really gross. It looks like the Freddy Krueger tongue through the phone.
yeah, it's a great bit, and you know she is she's a go-getter. Like she basically threatens the door guy with a gun to get into the club at the end. Like
Yeah.
she doesn't fuck around.
because he asks her to pay the cover.
She's a cop, dude. Like it's not
Yeah.
gonna get over. Like it's LAPD.
The dudes get stopped because they don't have IDs, and she gets stopped for not paying the cover.
Yeah, a lady with a gun. Good job.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I do appreciate the guy at the end though, because he's really blasé about Sheetar having like massive fangs.
Oh, yeah, he's fine.
Yeah.
It would be like if at the end of Thriller, when Michael Jackson like turns, if everybody just acted normal after that. Like, cool, what? So what's the big deal?
They would probably just assume nowadays that he's a furry.
Yeah.
Like he got like
Yeah.
cool like novelty contact lenses. Like, oh, you're going to the con next weekend? Yeah.
Yeah, you can just buy those now.
Yeah.
That was like that like sucked to do back then, but not a big deal anymore.
Well, yeah, I can imagine they were like the awful kind of like hard contact lenses that really hurt.
I feel like I remember seeing a documentary on this at some point. If it wasn't him, it was someone else. And they were like thick.
Yeah.
Like they looked like miserable to wear.
Yeah. Like the kind of thing where you wonder if you're going to get like permanent eye damage just from like
Yeah.
a few hours with those in your eyes. Ugh. Yeah, that's scary. Well, so that is Blood Diner, which is currently streaming free with ads on Tubi, as I think you mentioned. You can also get a DVD of it. I think this comes from...
It's also available as Horror Collection 6 movie pack.
You know, and like I said before, it was like a little more curated than your average, like, hey, here's like a fistful of movies for like $10 kind of selection. But
This vampire movie has David Carradine and Bruce Campbell. I shouldn't be surprised that Bruce Campbell's in a movie like this. Never mind.
yeah,
I retract my statement.
I mean, he knows what side his bread is buttered on. It's even less surprising that David Carradine is in it, because like talk about a guy who would take any job.
Yeah. He's one of those dudes who truly got that Tarantino glow up.
He really did.
Like, a couple people really, really got that Reclamation project, and he's one of them.
Yeah. And then he just kind of like squandered it by dying while jerking off.
Yeah. Well, the unexamined life is not worth living.
Sad, really. Kids, don't drink and drive, and there's no safe way to do breath play. Remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's Blood Diner, currently available on streaming. Patrick, do you want to tell the folks what kind of projects you got going on and where we can find them? Because I have listened to some of your music, and it's fucking good. People should check it out.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've got a bunch of music up on my Bandcamp. Googling Patrick Cosmos will get you there. It is at veryimportant.lawyer. I'm on Blue Sky, also at veryimportant.lawyer. I have another tape out. It's on the Bandcamp. It is called Tonal Rotors. It's not easy or not hard to find via a pretty simple Google search. It is on my buddy Tom's label, Big Sleep Records. And that's really it. I got a new record coming soon. I'm working on a video. I'm working on getting it mastered and hoping to get a tape out, hopefully 6 months maybe. So It's called Future National Sports. There is a little teaser single out now on the Bandcamp.
That's great, and I will link to all that stuff in the show notes. I also highly recommend for those of you who are on Blue Sky, go follow, very important, .lawyer. Excellent posting. Highly recommend. So, Patrick, thank you very much for bringing me Blood Diner, because I really enjoyed this. This was fun.
Yeah, thanks. I was really, really eager to talk about this. So
It is the perfect movie for a certain kind of person, and that kind of person definitely listens to this show.
yeah, I'm just happy to do my part and help raise awareness.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, you can show your support by going to patreon.com/haveyouseen this and make a pledge at the $2 or $5 tier. $5 a month gets the latest episode before everyone else, plus access to our Discord where we're always arguing about movies. If you'd like to give us a tip, our Ko-Fi link is in the show notes.